Well, hello, everyone. So, about a year and a half ago, I found myself in front of a county court judge. I was in that courtroom pleading my case for a protection order to help ensure the safety of myself and those around me. Unfortunately, the first time, it wasn't granted. But what I learned from that process was that even at a time when I was most vulnerable and afraid, I was also strong and powerful. I had to learn how to advocate for myself and use my voice. I had to dig deep within myself to find the qualities that I would need to be able to do what I had set out to do. And that was really freaking hard. I had to be courageous and determined and persevere. And from that experience, I really found my voice and was able to use it in other areas of my life. From that experience, I learned about fear, and that's really what led me to the path of leadership that I'm on. And I would say most of us are pretty scared living in the world today. But despite what is going on, we still have to live our lives. We shouldn't be discouraged by something that always exists. Fear is the feeling of danger, whether real or imagined. For young women especially, I think it is hard to move past the fear and see sight of something that isn't commonplace in society, like women in leadership. A little over half the US population is made up by women. But when looking at leadership positions across the board, from healthcare to politics to film to academia, we can see that there is a leadership disparity between the sexes. According to the US Bureau of Labor and Statistics, 51% of management, professional, and related occupations are held by women. But when looking at chief executive positions, only 26.9% are held by women. So I know that was a lot of statistics. But what does all that mean for someone, me, or someone in a similar position? It means that there is opportunity for change and growth. It's 2019, right? Times have changed. Technology, industries, culture, and workforce demographics have all evolved, and it's time that our mindset and behavior do as well. We are fortunate enough to be living at a time where we can question social and cultural norms. Never has there been such a movement of acceptance and courage. We can make bold decisions that challenge the status quo, and just because these norms exist doesn't mean we can't begin to change the expectations we have of ourselves. Leadership is extremely hard to define and requires a great many characteristics. But we have to address the fear factor first and find the qualities within ourselves that help us move past it. So be open to being vulnerable and uncomfortable, because that's what helps us build confidence one small step at a time and leads us to becoming doers and not just sayers. So instead of just saying you're going to do something, have the courage to take action. And really that's what it comes down to, is making a decision. Because even when you choose to not do something, your inaction is still a choice that you've made. We only have control of ourselves and the decisions that we make. We should embrace opportunities that help us learn and grow instead of remaining stagnant, because that's how we learn to find the leadership qualities within ourselves. And once we know what we are capable of, we can test our limits. We know ourselves best and are our own best advocates. We know the goals we want to achieve and the dreams that we have. So you can become a doer instead of just a sayer. And I will be the first to say that that is an extremely difficult thing to accomplish as a young person and a young woman, evidenced by me being on this stage today. And I think that all of us have experienced impostor syndrome. You know, that voice inside your head that tells you you can't or shouldn't do something because you aren't good enough? Those creeping thoughts of self-doubt. But we can choose to acknowledge those feelings and move past them. Rosa Parks had said, I have learned over the years that when one's mind's made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear. Rather than question whether you can do something, question whether you will, or will you hold yourself back? Be courageous. We encounter countless hurdles in our lives. Just think of the many women before us that have faced challenges that could have set them back, but didn't. Challenges aren't barriers that we can't cross. They aren't walls, they're doorways. And if we have the courage to open the door and walk through, we will come out the other side to a whole new world of opportunities. And even when one of those opportunities ends in a failure, then fail forward. Gain experience and insight that you can use for future endeavors. We can all use our fear to our advantage and learn from it. Don't let the fear of failure stop you from taking on the next challenge. It's how we persevere, work through disappointment. So find strength in numbers. There is a great African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's not about tearing others down so you can build yourself up. It's about building all of us. Be the person that supports others and cultivate a future of female leaders. There is no playbook for how women become leaders and take on leadership roles, but we can find the resources and support we need to do so. Creating a network can be a major resource to you in all areas of life to inspire you, challenge you, support you, and keep you self-aware. Mentors are so important for this journey to leadership as well, because we are breaking barriers and questioning norms that may not have been challenged before. We have to teach ourselves how to become leaders and to push back against oppression and inappropriate behaviors. We can all have a voice in this conversation and movement without taking away from or silencing the voices of others. We have to learn how to make our own voices heard so that we may leverage them to change the leadership dynamic. So embrace your fear to facilitate your growth and push you to becoming strong professionals. I believe nothing worth doing is without some amount of fear. And it can be paralyzing if you let it. But once you make the decision to move forward, it becomes less and less difficult. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, 'I have lived this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along.' You must do the thing you think you cannot do." We can take our stories of fear and vulnerability and turn them into resiliency and sources of strength. My second time in the courtroom did not end in failure. I got my protection order. And through that process, I learned that I was not only able to acknowledge my fear, but channel it into something constructive instead of remaining motionless. Just as I had learned to use my voice, find courage and confidence, fail forward, and find support, we can all embrace our fear to achieve our goals and catapult us to becoming leaders. Thank you.